Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. I'm absolutely pumped to have you here today because, well, we're going to demystify one of the absolute most famous and universally memorized shortcuts in all of electrical engineering and physics. Seriously, if you've ever studied alternating current, you know exactly the one I'm talking about. Today, we're finally looking past the pure memorization to uncover the beautiful mathematical machinery that actually makes the whole thing work.
0.707. I mean, this number is practically burned into the brain of anyone who's ever had to sit through a physics exam or calculate AC power, right? We use it constantly, we trust it completely. But I gotta ask you, do you actually know where this oddly specific decimal comes from? Most of us just kind of accept it as a given, like a magic constant handed down from the textbook gods. Well, not today. Today, we're not just accepting it, we're going to prove it.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that practically every single physics student has these textbook shortcuts for finding the root mean square, or RMS, for current and voltage totally memorized. And hey, they're incredibly useful for getting a quick answer, for sure. But they're almost treated like a magic trick. So we're going to pull back the curtain. We're going to completely reverse engineer these exact formulas using pure calculus to figure out exactly why that 0.707 absolutely has to be there.
Okay, so here's our analytical roadmap. First up, the RMS magic number. Then, DC versus AC heat. Third, the analytical method. Fourth, solving the integration. And finally, number 5, the final formula. Let's dive right in.
Section 1. The RMS magic number. Let's lay the groundwork and define the core concept we're looking at today.
So before we jump into the math, we really need to understand what the math is actually trying to do. RMS. It stands for root mean square. But here's the thing. It's not just a catchy name. It's literally a set of instructions hidden in plain sight. It's an analytical method to find the effective value of a varying alternating current or voltage. And actually, if you think about it, it's a specific sequence of math operations applied in reverse. First, you square the values, then you find the mean, and finally, you take the square root, the whole shebang. But why do we even have to go through all this trouble in the first place?
That brings us to Section 2, DC versus AC heat, and exactly why we need this complex math to figure things out.
Think about generating heat in a standard resistor. If you're dealing with direct current, or DC, it's a super straightforward calculation. The heat generated is literally just the constant current squared, times the resistance times time. So I squared RT. It's steady, it's reliable. But alternating current, that is a completely different beast. AC current is constantly changing its value, waving up and down over time. Because it's not constant, we can't just plug a single number into our basic formula and call it a day. So instead, as our source points out, we're forced to equate the heat generated by finding the mean of all those squared instantaneous values over a specific period of time. Basically, we have to find a sort of effective DC equivalent for this constantly moving AC wave.
All right, Section 3, the analytical method. This is where we finally get to go under the hood.
I really want to clearly signpost the math for you here, just walking through the 3 logical phases of this derivation so no one gets lost in the weeds with the upcoming equations. Remember that name we talked about, root mean square? We're literally just doing that step by step. So, step 1, we take the instantaneous alternating current and square it. Step 2, we find the mean of that squared current. Now, to do this for an AC wave, we have to integrate over a half cycle. That just means going from 0 to pi. And step 3, once we have that mean, we simply take the square root of the whole thing. It's kind of like a math puzzle, and if we just follow those 3 logical steps, the calculus is going to reveal our magic number.
Section 4, solving the integration. Time for the mathematical heavy lifting. Let's apply those steps.
Okay, let's start with our standard equation for instantaneous current, lowercase I equals I sub m times the sine of theta, where I sub m is our maximum or peak current, right? So following step 1, we square it. That gives us I squared equals I sub m squared times sine squared theta. But here's where we hit a bit of a speed bump. Trying to integrate a sine squared function directly, yeah, that gets really messy really fast. To actually integrate this cleanly over our half cycle, we get to use a super clever trigonometric identity. Basically, a math trick. We just substitute that sine squared theta term with 1 minus cosine of 2 theta, all divided by 2. And guys, this simple substitution is the absolute key here. It takes what looks like an impossible integration and makes it completely solvable.
Looking right at the actual derivation from our source, just watch how beautifully this integral takes shape. We're finding the mean square value by integrating our squared function from 0 to pi and then dividing the whole thing by pi. And look, there's that trig trick we just talked about inserted right into the integral. Now, as you evaluate the limits from 0 to pi, something genuinely beautiful happens. The integration of that cosine 2 theta term over a half cycle, it perfectly evaluates to 0. Boom, it completely cancels out. So what you're neatly left with is just I squared equals I sub m squared divided by 2 pi multiplied by the evaluated limit of pi. The pi's completely cancel each other out, leaving us with exactly I sub m squared divided by 2. And there it is. That's our mean square value. We survived the hard part.
Which brings us to our final stop today, Section 5, the final formula. So the crucial point is, how do we finally get to our magic number? We have our mean square value, right? I sub m squared over 2? Now, the literal final step in our root mean square process is to just take the square root of that result. Well, the square root of I sub m squared is obviously just I sub m. And the square root of 2 is, well, it's just the square root of 2. So we're handed this incredibly elegant final formula. IRMS equals I sub m divided by the square root of 2. Now, seriously, grab a calculator right now and divide 1 by the square root of 2. Tell me, what do you get? Exactly 0.707. That is the actual origin of the magic shortcut. See? It's not magic at all. It's literally just the physical reality of an alternating sine wave, mathematically reduced to its constant heating equivalent. Absolutely mind-blowing.
Honestly, how incredibly satisfying is that? Next time you're sitting down to take a test, or you're out there designing a circuit and you need to multiply a peak voltage or current by 0.707, you aren't just blindly plugging in a memorized number anymore. No way! You know exactly the calculus it took to get there. You've literally seen the half-cycle integration, the clever trigonometric substitution, and that super elegant cancellation that makes the whole thing work. It really makes you wonder, though, what other simple, everyday physics constants are hiding complex, beautiful math just beneath the surface? Keep asking those questions, keep digging into the why, and I'll see you in the next explainer.